Rain fell hard over the burned-out colony site, mixing with smoke rising from collapsed towers and shattered sky rails. What once was a peaceful trading hub now looked like a battlefield. Charred metal crunched under booted feet as a small figure walked carefully through the wreckage. His name was Rin Maddox, and no one looking at him would believe he was a soldier. He was barely 5'5". Thin, wiry, and with boyish features, Rin looked more like a technician than a fighter. His uniform was simple. No medals, no rank, just a dark coat, a pulse blade at his hip, and a tiny silver badge that read Protective Detail Class C. It was the lowest ranking for any bodyguard in the system. Above him, a towering alien vessel hovered low over the Fadi ruins. The engines hummed with unnatural quiet. From its side ramp descended a tall, armored alien woman with lavender skin, a sweeping black cape, and golden warrior's tattoos on her cheeks. Her presence made even the scattered scavengers bow. In fear, she was Captain Varel of the Bodyguard, sister of the High Warlord. Her eyes scanned the destruction. Then they landed on Rin. She tilted her head in confusion, then mild annoyance. The human saluted, standing firm in the rain. Varel walked up to him, her boots splashing water as she narrowed her eyes. "You're my new bodyguard?" she asked, looking him up and down. Her voice was sharp and cold. "You're too small to be useful. Is this a joke?" Rin didn't flinch. "Orders are orders, ma'am," he replied. "I'm assigned to protect you on your mission through this zone." Varel scoffed. "I've crushed larger men with one hand. What will you do when the enemy comes? Hide behind my leg?" Rin didn't respond to the insult. Instead, he looked over her shoulder at the skyline. Then he slowly reached for his cum link and whispered, "They're here." Varel raised a brow. "Who?" 12 hostiles, he said calmly. "They've circled us, trying to trap us in the wreckage." Varel laughed. "You expect me to believe that? I've seen no one." Suddenly, a plasma bolt zipped past her head and slammed into a broken wall behind. She spun, already drawing her curved blade. Figures in ragged armor emerged from the smoke. Mercenaries, fast, hungry, trained to take down Varadi nobility and steal their genetic codes. Before Varel could move, Rin dashed forward with terrifying speed. His coat fluttered behind him. As he flipped over a pile of debris, his pulse blade igniting mid-air. The first attacker swung a plasma axe. Rin ducked low, slashed the mercenary's leg, and rolled into a second one. Driving his blade into the attacker's stomach, Varel's eyes widened. The human moved like smoke, like lightning. He didn't block or clash, he flowed. One by one, the attackers came at him from every angle. And one by one, he cut them down. Elbows snapped. Legs shattered, necks cracked. He wasn't just fighting, he was dancing through chaos. Varel watched, stunned. She'd trained with warriors on 10 planets. None of them moved like this. Rin didn't just fight with skill. He fought with intent. Every strike ended a threat. Every dodge placed him in perfect position for the next kill. 2 mercenaries tried to flank him. One raised a sonic hammer, the other aimed a bolt rifle. Rin leapt between them, twisted in the air, and kicked the rifle upward before it fired. The blast missed him by inches. Then he landed on the hammer's handle and drove both attackers to the ground. The final 3 enemies hesitated. They looked at each other, then at the small human soaked in blood and rain. Rin didn't wait. He sprinted forward, used a broken slab of metal as a ramp, and dove straight into them. The fight was over in seconds. When the dust settled, all 12 attackers were unconscious or groaning on the ground. Rin stood in the middle of them, breathing steady. His pulse blade hummed softly, still glowing in the dim light. Varel stepped forward slowly. Her armor was still untouched. She hadn't needed to lift her sword. Not once. She stared at Rin as if seeing him for the first time. "You're just Class C," she said quietly. How did you do that? Rin looked up at her, eyes calm. I wasn't assigned for my rank, he said. I was assigned because I never fail my mission. Varel walked up to him, water dripping from her cape. She towered over him. For once, she didn't feel superior. Who trained you? Rin shrugged. A long list of people who are no longer breathing. She stared at him a moment longer, then slowly nodded. I take back what I said. Rin raised an eyebrow. About me being small? No, she said. About this being a joke. Then, without warning, another shadow moved behind the smoke. A tall, cloaked figure with glowing yellow eyes stepped out, clapping slowly. Impressive, he said. In a deep voice, but that was just the scouting party. The real threat begins now. Rin moved to stand in front of Varel again, his blade raised without hesitation. Asterisk, the cloaked figure stood with 1 foot atop a shattered crate, watching the fallen mercenaries with silent amusement. His yellow eyes glowed from under a hood. Laced with circuitry, Varel had seen his kind before. Soul merchants. Killers for hire who trafficked not just in bodies, but in memories. Rin stepped between the figure and Varel without hesitation. His stance lowered slightly, left foot forward. Pulse blade angled down. Ready to strike in a blink. You shouldn't be here, Rin said firmly. This zone is restricted. The soul merchant chuckled. Your restriction died with the council's failure to secure this world. I'm here for her, he said, nodding at Varel. And if you move, little bodyguard, I'll add your brain to my collection. Varel clenched her fists. He warned you, she said coldly. The air cracked. As Rin vanished from where he stood, the cloaked figure barely had time to raise his arm before Rin's knee smashed into his jaw. A burst of sparks flew as the enemy's tech mask shattered. Rin landed behind him, twisted sharply, and kicked him into a broken vehicle shell. The soul merchant slammed into it with a grunt. His hood fell back, revealing more cybernetics than skin. His arms transformed, reshaping into energy cannons. Twin barrels began to charge with high-pitched whines. Cover! Rin shouted. He tackled Varel to the ground as twin plasma beams exploded overhead, scorching everything in a straight line. The rain turned to steam. Metal melted like butter. But Rin didn't slow. He rolled over Varel, came up on one knee, and hurled a small disc at the charging cannons. The disc detonated mid-air, unleashing a sphere of sound that bent gravity itself. The cannons imploded inward, tearing the enemy's arms apart. The soul merchant shrieked. His body convulsed, then regenerated new limbs from hidden cyber reserves. You cost me tech worth 3 planets, he screamed. I'll rip you apart. You can try, Rin said quietly. The battle lasted 4 minutes. Every second was a storm. The soul merchant fired sonic blasts, projected mirror images, even released venomous drones from his cloak. But none of it slowed Rin. He dodged each strike by a thread, parried every blade, cut through every drone with precise sweeps of his glowing weapon. Varel stood frozen behind a collapsed hover truck, stunned by what she witnessed. This wasn't just combat, it was control. Rin didn't panic, didn't hesitate. He adapted, analyzed, executed. Like a machine wearing a human face. Finally, with one clean motion, Rin slashed the enemy's power core. A fountain of sparks and smoke shot out from the back of the soul merchant's torso. The killer staggered, dropped to one knee, and tried to speak. But no words came, only smoke. He fell forward, lifeless. The fight was over. Again, Varel approached slowly. She looked down at the destroyed figure, then at the bodyguard who stood silently nearby. Rin wasn't even breathing hard. His coat was torn, his hair singed, but his eyes were steady. That wasn't a scout, she said finally. That was a full-blown assassin from the inner rings. Yes, Rin replied, and someone paid him enough to risk dying here. Varel narrowed her eyes. They want me silenced before I reach the Galactic Assembly. Rin nodded once. The evidence you carry is worth more than your life to certain governments. She looked at him closely now. You knew this. You knew I was a target. That's why you volunteered for this job. I didn't volunteer, he said. I insisted. For a moment, she said nothing. The rain had eased into a cold drizzle. The fires in the distance were dying, but the tension between them still burned. She took a slow breath. My brother, she said, believes humans are only useful for labor and entertainment. He would never let one near a noble like me, but I chose my own guard. And I picked you. I saw your record. Rin didn't react. I assumed that was classified. It is, she said, but I break rules sometimes. He gave a small nod. Then you know what I'm capable of. She stepped closer to him, towering again. But this time, her tone was different, not mocking, not proud. Just honest, Rin Maddox, she said softly. I don't think you're small anymore. They walked toward the transport ship as emergency lights flickered across the battlefield. Varel climbed the ramp first. Rin followed close behind, always watching the shadows. Inside the ship, as the engines warmed and the crew secured the area, Varel turned back to him. This isn't over, she said. Whoever sent that soul merchant, they'll send worse. I know, Rin replied. And I'll be ready. Varel looked at the blood on his coat, the quiet strength in his voice, and nodded slowly. Let's see how far your protection can go, human. I'll take you all the way to the assembly, Rin said. Alive. And as the ship lifted into the stormy sky, neither of them noticed the black signal pulsing from the corpse behind them, transmitting coordinates to something orbiting far above. The ship moved swiftly through the upper atmosphere, its cloaking shield activated as it broke through orbit. Rin stood in the observation chamber, eyes locked on the black void outside. He wasn't looking at the stars. He was listening for trouble. Behind him, Varel entered the room, her armor freshly cleaned but her voice carrying weight. We're being followed, she said. Our scanners just picked up a stealth trace moving 3 clicks behind us. Rin didn't turn. Let me guess. Stealth tech unknown. Heat signature ghosting our thrusters. Varel nodded. Yes, it's mimicking our wake. Only reason we spotted it is because one of my engineers sneezed and knocked the scanner into manual recalibration. That's not coincidence, Rin said. That's sabotage. Varel tensed. You think someone on board is working against US? I don't think, Rin replied. I know. She stepped closer. Then we find them, Rin nodded slowly. Not yet. If we act too soon, we tip them off. I need to know what they've already done. They may have marked this ship for destruction. Varel clenched her fists. This ship has my bloodline seal. Only 3 other people have clearance to override it. And you trust them? I trust no one, she said quietly. Good, Rin said. Then keep that mindset. They moved to the control room where Rin personally checked the encryption. Keys, the door locks, and each crew member's biometric records all appeared normal at first glance. But hidden deep in the ship's engine matrix, Rin found something strange. A looping code with no author tag and no timestamp. This is it, he said. A tracking worm. It updates every 10 seconds. Whoever's following us is seeing everything in real time. Can we cut it? Not without alerting them. Varel frowned. Then what do we do? Rin smiled faintly. We let them think they're winning. Hours passed as Rin and the engineering officer rewired critical systems. They fed the worm fake telemetry, crafted false engine trails, and even looped security feeds to make it appear the ship was off course. Meanwhile, Rin planted decoy explosives near access panels, carefully rigged to trigger if tampered with. At midnight ship time, the saboteur made their move. A low-ranking navigation tech slipped into the engine bay with a toolkit, moving confidently as if on regular duty. But Rin was already there, watching from behind a bulkhead. He waited until the tech connected his tool to the main processor. Then he stepped out, blade drawn. "Stand down." The tech spun, hand reaching for his sidearm, but Rin was faster. A pulse shot into the man's wrist, forcing him to drop the weapon. He backed into the wall, breathing hard. "Do you know who I work for?" the tech spat. "Killing me won't stop them." "I don't need to kill you," Rin replied. "But you're not leaving this room." Varel arrived seconds later. She didn't ask questions. She looked at the traitor and said one word. "Why?" The man laughed bitterly. "Because your war destroyed my planet. Because your family's greed turned colonies into feeding grounds. I made sure you'd never reach the assembly alive." Varel didn't flinch. She only nodded. "Then you die in silence." "No," Rin said. "He's more valuable alive." The tech was restrained and thrown into a zero-gravity isolation cell. Varel leaned on the rail above the chamber, watching him float like a trapped insect. "You think he'll talk?" "He already has," Rin said. "He exposed his link. The ship following us isn't just a mercenary squad, it's royal." Varel turned. "My own family? Or someone who wants the throne when you're gone?" She was silent for a long moment. "Then we can't go to the assembly. They'll be waiting." Rin shook his head. "We're still going, but on my terms." He rerouted their course toward a gas giant's outer ring. It looked like a detour, but it was a perfect place to drop a signal decoy. As they entered the magnetic storm, Rin deployed 3 false pods, each mimicking the heat and engine signature of their ship. On the tracker's side, it looked like their vessel had split into 3. One heading toward a mining colony, one toward a pirate sector, one continuing toward the assembly. In truth, they were hiding behind the ring's magnetic distortion, silent and invisible, as soon as the pursuing ship revealed itself to chase. The wrong pod, Rin's plan kicked into motion. He sent a ghost beacon to the assembly's edge station, disguised as an ancient supply drone. It carried one message, encrypted with the highest level code used only by fallen war heroes. "The proof is real. I'm bringing it myself." Signed, Rin Maddox, *. The false trail had worked perfectly. The enemy ship took the bait, chasing the decoy pod toward the pirate sector. But Rin wasn't smiling. Not yet. He knew this kind of enemy never gave up after one failed attempt. The gas giant's magnetic storms offered brief shelter. Inside the interference zone, communications were scrambled, scanners were unreliable, and even artificial gravity behaved strangely. But it was the only place safe enough to repair the damaged systems without being detected. Varel stood barefoot on the deck, her armor shed for the first time. She watched Rin work under the flickering light. Sparks flew as he cut open a maintenance panel. She noticed his hands didn't shake. They never did. Even after all the fighting, they were steady as iron. "You never asked what's in the data." "Chip," she said quietly. "I figured if it was worth killing you over, I should keep my curiosity under control," Rin replied without looking up. She stepped closer. "It's proof. A full copy of the Warlords Treaty with the Zenth Syndicate. My brother has been selling out colonies in secret, trading our own people for weapons and power." Rin stopped for a moment, then resumed rewiring. "And you're going to show it to the assembly?" "Yes. And they'll either remove him, or I'll call for a duel under Varada law." Rin looked up now. "Duel?" She nodded. "Our people respect strength. If the assembly won't punish him, I will." "You'll fight your own brother?" She didn't hesitate. "He stopped being my brother when he started feeding prisoners to the Syndicate's hounds." Rin said nothing. He reached into the panel and twisted 2 wires together. A light turned green on the console beside him. He stood and wiped his hands with a cloth. "Power cores steady," he said. "We're good for another jump." Before he could step away, the ship jolted. The lights dimmed. Then the emergency klaxon blared once, then cut off. Rin's hand dropped to his blade. Varel turned to the wall console. No impact, no weapons fire. Rin moved toward the corridor. Then it's not outside, it's inside. As they rushed down the narrow hallway, the lights flickered faster. Suddenly, smoke began pouring from a side panel. Rin slammed the emergency seal, but a burst of static struck his arm. He gritted his teeth and forced the panel open. A shadowy figure stood behind the control board, wires running from his head into the systems. His skin was pale, eyes wide and flickering like broken lenses. Cybernetic implants hummed across his skull. Another one, Rin muttered. He's jacked into the core. The man turned slowly. His voice echoed unnaturally. Your bodyguard is strong, princess. But how long can he protect you from your own crew? Varel raised her plasma pistol. Cut him out, or I cut you down. The man laughed. I already triggered the overload. This ship will die before it reaches orbit. Rin lunged forward. The hacker turned to run, but Rin tackled him into the wall. Wires snapped, sparks burst. The man shrieked as his implants shorted out. Rin pulled him back and delivered a clean strike to the side of his neck. The saboteur dropped unconscious. Varel ran to the panel. He set a feedback loop into the energy converters. This thing will burn from the inside out. Rin grabbed the wiring and began pulling connectors loose. We've got 60 seconds. I can't stop it in time. You don't need to, he said. Just slow it down. Varel's fingers moved fast across the console. Rin reached deep into the panel and twisted the failsafe override. The heat intensified. A warning tone filled the ship. 20 seconds, Varel warned. Rin turned to the open vent behind them. The fusion tap. We can vent the charge through the waste exhaust. Varel's eyes widened. That's meant for emergencies only. This is one, he said. She nodded and entered the override manually. A deep thud shook the ship. Then a rush of heat and plasma surged through the lower vents, lighting up the gas giant's clouds in a sudden burst of glowing blue. The overload stopped. The power dropped to normal. The danger had passed. They stood in silence, breathing hard, surrounded by smoke and flickering lights. Rin dropped to one knee, coughing. His sleeve was scorched. You okay? Varel asked. He looked up, just warm. She helped him up. For the first time, her hand lingered on his shoulder. Not in command, but in quiet thanks, they dragged the unconscious saboteur to the brig. Varel placed a damp cloth in Rin's hand as they sat in the ship's mess hall afterward. You've nearly died 3 times in 2 days, she said. I don't know if I should thank you or fire you. I don't take compliments or resignations, he replied. She chuckled softly. Fair, he looked at her. There may be more hidden agents. I'll have the crew scanned again. Scan me too, Rin said. We can't afford even a shadow of doubt. Varel studied him for a moment. You'd really let me scan you? Yes, even if I see things you don't want me to. I've got nothing to hide, Rin said. But you might learn something that changes the way you look at humans. I already have, she said quietly. The scan chamber was silent except for the low hum of the rotating beam. Rin stood with his arms out, eyes closed. The machine circled him slowly, mapping every nerve, implant, and hidden signature in his body. Varel watched from the control deck, her expression unreadable. The medical officer beside her frowned. He has military-grade reflex enhancers, she said. But there's no military registry in his file. Classified? Varel asked. The officer shook her head. Erased. Cleaned so well, it's like he never existed until 6 years ago. Varel tapped the screen. What about his mental data? Disciplined. Structured. No foreign conditioning. But strange emotional markers. heavy suppression. Likely trauma. Varel leaned back. How much of him is human? 86%, the officer answered. The rest is enhanced. But no alien parts, just perfected human science. The scan ended. Rin stepped out and looked up at Varel through the glass. She nodded once. That was enough. Later, she joined him in the empty training room. He was practicing hand-to-hand forms, slow and precise. Each movement ended in a strike, a twist, a break. His breathing was calm. His shirt was soaked. But his eyes were far away. You lied, she said. I did, he replied. You said you weren't special. I'm not, he said. I was. Built to survive, not to be remembered. She crossed her arms. What happened 6 years ago? He paused, then finished the form before answering. My squad was burned. Officially, we never existed. The mission failed. I was the only one left. And you never went back? I wasn't allowed to. Dead men don't file reports. She stepped closer. So you became a bodyguard? I became what was left. There was no sadness in his tone. No anger, just truth. Varel nodded slowly. You're still loyal to your people. I'm loyal to justice, he said. Doesn't matter who's in the uniform. She smiled. Faintly, then we're the same. Before he could reply, the ship shuddered. Not an explosion, not turbulence. A sudden sharp tilt that threw them off balance. Rin was already moving. He sprinted to the comms panel. Bridge, report. A shaky voice answered. We've been caught in a grav net. It's pulling us toward a mass shadow. I think it's a hidden cruiser, Varel swore. They found us again. No, Rin said. This is new, bigger. The ship jolted again. Lights flickered. Rin activated manual override and brought up the external cam. A sleek black vessel loomed behind them, its surface absorbing radar. No insignia, no signal. Just silence. They're jamming everything, Varel muttered. Weapons ready? Rin asked. Not against that, she said. That's a phantom class. Hunter, designed to kill diplomats and vanish. Then we outthink it, he replied. Rin ran to engineering and ordered the secondary core activated. The energy spike created a momentary burst of interference, just enough to blind the hunter's sensors. In that gap, Rin launched a data scrambler into the GravNet node. The field trembled, then snapped. The ship jolted free, engines screaming. But the hunter vessel didn't give chase. Instead, it launched a boarding pod. They're not trying to destroy us, Rin said. They want the chip. Varel tightened her gloves. Then they can try and take it. The pod breached the hull near the cargo hold. Atmosphere vented for a second before the autoseals engaged. Then the invaders came through. 4 armored figures, tall, silent, masks without faces. Moving like phantoms, Rin waited just beyond the corridor, crouched in shadow. He counted the footfalls, watched the shadows stretch. Then he moved. He dropped the first one with a strike to the helmet, blade slicing through the neck joint. The second turned, too slow, and caught a bolt to the throat. The third raised a gravity hammer, but Varel tackled him from the side. Driving her armored elbow into his chest, the fourth enemy fired blindly. The bolt hit a console and set off a small explosion. Rin rolled through the fire, came up behind the attacker, and drove his blade straight into the spinal port. The enemy dropped without a sound. Silence returned. Just the hiss of damaged vents and the distant hum of the engine. Varel stood beside Rin, breathing hard. Blood smeared her shoulder. He glanced at it, then at her face. You good? She nodded. Just a scratch, let me see. She sighed, pulled back the armor plate, and let him examine the burn. His fingers were careful, gentle. She watched him in silence. You're better than any of my own guards, she said. I'm not a guard. He replied, I'm your shield. She touched his wrist gently. Then stay close. He nodded once. Asterisk, the ship limped through the asteroid belt, trailing sparks and smoke. After the attack, half the systems were fried, and the engines could only push at 30%. But they were moving. And that was enough for now. Rin sat at the edge of the command deck, stripping the casing off a damaged neural plug. His hands worked fast, despite the dried blood on his fingers. Varel stood beside him, one arm in a sling, her eyes watching the broken stars beyond the cracked window. "We can't make it to the assembly in this condition," she said. "No," Rin agreed. "But we're close to the outpost on Deltacore. If we land there and call in favors, we might get clearance for a diplomatic shuttle," Varel sighed. "And if your name's still blacklisted? Then we'll take the shuttle by force," Rin said. "But one way or another I'm getting you there." She sat beside him. "You don't owe me anything." "I disagree." "Why?" "Because if people like you fall, there's no one left worth protecting." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was steady, solid, built from fire and war and survival. Varel leaned back, her gaze never leaving him. "There was a time I thought humans were soft," she said. "Your people came to our empire with open hands and peaceful words." "We were," he said, "until the galaxy taught us how to bleed." She touched the chip around her neck. "This thing, it's not just data. It's history, names, contracts, death orders. If I hand this over, I destroy my brother." "Then destroy him," Rin said. "He made that choice the day he betrayed his people." She nodded slowly. "I just wish my father could have seen this. He believed in unity, in truth. He never saw what his son was becoming." Rin's voice lowered. "Sometimes it takes a stranger to clean the blood from a family's blade." Their moment was broken by a sharp ping from the console. A new signal had arrived, weak, broken, but unmistakable. It came from Deltacore's outpost. A response beacon from an old friend. Varel leaned forward. "It's from Governor Harn. He says the assembly's outer station is on lockdown. Someone tipped them off. They're expecting a smuggler ship with stolen data." Rin gritted his teeth. "That's us, but he also says he'll cover our landing. If we come in fast and low, he'll fake a reactor failure to buy us time." Rin stood. "Tell him we're on the way." The ship groaned as it entered Deltacore's gravity well. Flames streaked across the hull from friction. The atmosphere rattled their bones. Varel held tight to the console as Rin guided the ship. Manually, the controls shook. Systems sparked. But they didn't crash. They landed in a blast of dust and heat. Emergency crews rushed to the pad, shouting about leaks and critical overloads. It was all an act, but a convincing one. Rin grabbed the chip and motioned for Varel to follow. A back door opened into the governor's private hangar. A sleek shuttle waited, already fueled and armed. The governor stood beside it, old and tired but still proud. He embraced Varel. "Like a daughter, you've grown stronger," he said. "And older." She replied with a smile. The governor turned to Rin. "So you're the one keeping her alive?" "I try," Rin said. "Not always easy." "Good. You'll need that spirit where you're going." Varel handed the governor a backup copy of the data. "If we fail, this goes public." "I'll make sure of it," he promised. Then they boarded the shuttle. Rin took the pilot's seat. Varel sat beside him, still holding the chip in both hands. The hangar roof opened above them. Stars greeted them like silent witnesses. As they rose into orbit, Rin activated a stealth route toward the assembly gate. It would be tight. One mistake, and they'd be labeled enemies of the state. Halfway through the route, Varel asked, "Do you ever get tired of running?" Rin looked straight ahead. "I'm not running. I'm escorting justice," she smiled. Then I picked the right man. The assembly station loomed in the distance. Massive, towering, guarded by automated turrets and patrol drones. No ship entered without authorization. "We need a code," Varel said. "I've got one," Rin replied. Yours? No, someone else's, someone who owed me. He entered the code. The system paused. Then the gate opened. Silent, slow. Like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. Varel stared at him. You're full of surprises. You haven't seen anything yet, he said. The assembly chamber rose like a cathedral of light, floating in orbit above the twin moons of Sartha. Crystal towers arched into the sky, and banners of 100 worlds shimmered against the vacuum shield. It was a place of law, of truth, of final judgment. Inside, delegates murmured in high balconies while armored guards flanked the main floor. At the center stood the throne of the High Warlord, and seated upon it, cloaked in royal black, was Varel's brother. He watched the screens. As a ship entered the outer dock, his fingers drummed against the armrest, slow and cold. So, he said, my little sister lives. Rin and Varel stepped into the station, flanked by security drones. A voice called them forward, announcing her return with formal authority. The chamber grew quiet. Delegates leaned forward. No one expected her to survive. Varel walked proudly, shoulders straight despite the pain in her arm. Rin walked behind her, every movement calculated. His weapon was holstered. His expression unreadable. But his eyes missed nothing. The High Warlord stood as she approached. Sister, he said, voice full of venomous charm. You return bearing rumors and fear. Is that what you bring to this house? I bring proof, Varel said. And? I bring justice. She held up the data chip. A technician rushed to scan and project its contents. A massive screen lit the chamber with glowing texts, signatures, orders. Everything her brother had denied now appeared in full public view. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted. Some gasped. A few stood in protest. Others demanded explanation. The High Warlord raised his hand. Silence returned. He stepped down from the throne slowly. This is treason, he said. This is truth. She replied. You accuse your own blood with the help of an off-world mercenary? He's not a mercenary, she said. He's the reason I'm standing here. The Warlord drew his blade. Then let the old law decide. Challenge me, sister, or back down and crawl. Varel looked at Rin. Her hand brushed his arm once. Then she stepped forward. I accept. Gasps echoed through the gallery. The duel would take place on the ancient floor. No technology. Number. Guards. Just 2 warriors and their honor. Rin watched in silence as the arena shields activated. The floor shimmered to life. Energy rings sealed the area. Varel took her stance. Her blade hummed softly, low and ready. Her brother laughed. You've grown softer. I'll end this quickly. She said nothing. The fight began with fury. Sparks flew as blades clashed. She moved fast, but he was stronger. Each strike drove. Her back, every blow tested her bones, but she didn't yield. She danced, she blocked, she waited. Rin watched her bleeding. Watched her struggle. Then he noticed the change. The Warlord's blade flickered, just slightly. His foot slid too far left. His breathing shifted. He was slowing down. Varel saw it too. She sidestepped, dodged a heavy swing, and countered. With a strike across his arm, blood sprayed. He roared in rage, swinging wildly, but she was inside his guard now. Her blade found his chest. One deep, final thrust. The Warlord fell. Silence. Then thunder. The chamber exploded with voices. Some cheered, some cried, but none could deny the result. The old law was clear. She had won. She was now High Warlord. She stood over her brother's body, eyes steady. Bury him with honor, she said. But never again hide the truth behind a throne. Rin stepped beside her. She turned and met his gaze. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Only he could hear. Thank you. You did it, he said. No, she replied. We did. Days passed. The news of the betrayal, the data, the duel spread across the stars. Varel took her oath on the high seat, promising reforms and balance. But not all worlds trusted easily. There would still be war. There would still be resistance. But now she had something they hadn't seen in generations. A human standing. At her side, Rin stood behind her during the ceremony. Not in armor, not with a blade, but simply as her shield, her choice, her trust. And when the ceremony ended, she turned to him and said the words no Varati had ever said to a human before. "You are no longer my bodyguard." He raised an eyebrow. "Oh? You are my equal, and I want you to stay." He paused, then nodded once.